LG C1 versus Sony A90J. Hardly seems like a fair fight, but maybe it is. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and if it weren't for the fact that LG decided to put out a less expensive A-series OLED, we'd be comparing polar opposites on the 4K OLED spectrum here, at least in terms of common consumer OLEDs. Sure, LG's wallpaper OLED and roll-up OLED are wacky expensive and super cool, but the Sony A90J sits right there at the top of what I think most folks would consider spending on an OLED TV. So the question we'll answer today is whether or not the Sony A90J is really that much better than the much more affordable C1. We'll take a look at the user experience, sound quality, gaming, and of course picture quality differences and see where we land. I'm stoked. Let's go. Before I dive in, I'm curious to know what you think is the sweet spot in terms of price for a 65-inch TV, OLED or otherwise. Let me know down in the comments so we can talk about it. And while you're down there, please click like and subscribe if you dig this video because I need your help growing this channel. Also, as always, we have links to the products you'll see in this video down in the description in case you'd like to support us that way. Thanks a million. Let's get into it. Let's start with design, because I think if you're going to spend big bucks on a fancy TV, it should look good, right? Both of these TVs have their pros and cons, but they're both attractive. In terms of profile, the Sony looks a little better due to its overall thinner measurements. Sony spreads the electronics components over a larger area of the back, so it's going to sit a little more flush to the wall when wall-mounted. The LG C1 has more of the ultra-thin OLED panel exposed, but has a slightly larger bump out on the back. Now, if you're stand mounting, that's where things really change from an aesthetic standpoint. The LG C1 has a centralized pedestal-style stand with a metal scoop facing outward. That pedestal is super heavy because it acts as a counterbalance since it just attaches to the back of the TV. This is a pretty low-slung setup, but that also means putting a soundbar in front of the TV is going to be tricky. The Sony uses legs at the far edges of the TV, which is a tricky situation itself since you'll need a big credenza or media cabinet to accommodate it. On the other hand, though, you can position the legs so that the TV sits flush against its stand, which is a look I really like. Or you can position them to raise the TV up to accommodate a soundbar. I like both approaches, but from a look standpoint, if I had to pick, I would pick the Sony. Next, let's talk about user experience. LG has improved WebOS substantially. It's got a dark theme, a more conventional layout, and just like the Sony, its menus have explanations for what different settings do. WebOS has almost all the apps you'll need, plus it has a pretty slick feature for sports fans, which keeps you up to date on your favorite teams and their game times and scores. I mean, overall, WebOS is a more advanced system. It's got so many fun features, I can't even begin to cover them here. However, I honestly prefer Google TV, which is what the Sony is running. For everyday use, Google TV just works for me. I like how easy it is to set up, I like the layout, I like its recommendations. It feels a little less ad-heavy to me, which is odd because it's Google. I just prefer it. I know that makes me sound like I've sold my soul to the Google devil, but haven't we all? Anyway, from a user experience standpoint, I prefer the Sony. Next, let's talk about sound quality. I know guys like me are always going on about pairing a premium TV up with a soundbar or home theater system, but the reality is lots of folks just use the TV's speakers. That's just life. Good news is both of these TVs sound excellent. The LG C1 sounds vastly better than most TVs, including most of LG's own TVs. That metal scoop at the bottom bounces sound coming from downfiring speakers directly out at you, which enhances the presence and clarity of the sound. Dialogue, for instance, is never hard to hear clearly. Also, it's got an impressive amount of bass, so it sounds full. You can listen to music with this TV and it sounds pretty decent. I would stay away from the AI Sound Pro setting. Sorry, LG, I'm just not a fan. But just the standard sound mode works great. It even fakes surround pretty well for movies. The Sony A90J, however, is even better. If you're not aware, the screen is the speaker. There are little actuators on the back of the panel which vibrate the screen to make sound, and I know that sounds like wizardry, but it works really well. Sound objects seem to come from their location on the screen, which is a really cool trick. Plus, this TV has a pretty powerful subwoofer, so the sound has a lot of weight and punch to it. Action flicks sound incredible on this TV. Plus, if you do decide to put together a surround system, you can use the TV as the center channel. There are speaker wire terminals on the back of the TV, so you just run speaker wire from your receiver to the TV from your center channel output, and bam, the TV is the center channel in your surround system. Super slick. So again, I have to call this category for the Sony A90J. Now let's talk about gaming. The latest gaming consoles and high-end PC graphics cards use HDMI 2.1, which can handle a ton more information than HDMI 2.0B, which is what's in most TVs these days. HDMI 2.0B maxes out at 18 gigabits per second, while HDMI 2.1 maxes out at between 40 and 48 gigabits per second. To get 4K at 120 Hz with variable refresh rate and 10-bit color all at the same time, you need HDMI 2.1. So the Sony A90J has two HDMI 2.1 ports, which is fine, but one of those HDMI 2.1 ports is also the eARC port, which could be problematic if you wanted to run both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and be able to pass sound down to your soundbar or AV receiver. I get it, not a ton of folks are doing that, but it is a limitation worth pointing out. The LG C1, on the other hand, has four HDMI 2.1 ports, one of which is an eARC port, so you can pretty much do whatever you want with the C1. It's more versatile. In terms of input lag, the Sony A90J comes in at about 16 milliseconds at 4K 60 and about 12 milliseconds at 4K 120. The LG aces this test, coming in at 10 milliseconds at 4K 60 and just 5 milliseconds at 4K 120. Another advantage for the LG is that it supports both FreeSync and G-Sync, and it has a cool gaming optimizer dashboard as well. So by all those measures, the LG C1 is the better TV for gaming, and I'd argue it's the best gaming TV you could buy right now, save for the upgrade to the LG G1. So there you have it. Wait, I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, I guess there's the picture quality, right? I kid. I know how important the picture quality is, and let me just get this out of the way. The Sony wins in the picture quality department. Reason one, it's brighter. This is Sony's hot-rodded version of LG's new premium OLED panel, and this TV can get super bright with the right settings. I do want to point out, though, that if you use the settings that get the picture to the highest accuracy, it's not that much brighter than the LG C1, so keep that in mind if you're a stickler for accuracy and plan to get your set calibrated. Aside from the brightness aspect, the Sony has more accurate color out of the box, like it's pretty much dead on without calibration. But I think what really gets me about the Sony A90J's picture quality is its detail. It resolves detail better than any other TV I've seen in my 10 years of doing this. It's so satisfying. Also, the Sony's motion handling is beyond reproach. It manages to tamp down stutter without kicking me in the face with soap opera effect better than any other TV I've seen so far as well. So package it all up, and yes, the Sony has a better picture. Now, if you've been keeping score, you know that the Sony A90J has won all but one category, and that's gaming. So the winner is Sony, right? Yes, it is, until you factor in price. Right now, and this will change in time, the difference in price for a 55-inch version of either of these TVs is $1,000. The Sony A90J 55-inch is $1,000 more than the LG C1. If we step up to the 65-inch size, the Sony A90J is about $1,300 more than the LG C1. Is the Sony A90J a superior TV? No question. Is it $1,000 or more better? I think the answer for most folks is going to be no. I mean, I have to think of this as if I was buying the TV for myself, right? And there's no way I could justify the added expense, even though in my heart, I want the Sony super bad. I would rather have a 65-inch LG C1 than a 55-inch A90J at roughly the same price. But to be clear, if money is not a concern and you just want to know which TV performs better, it's the A90J. Probably going to be my favorite TV of the year. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. If you know someone in the market for a premium TV, would you do me a favor and share this video with them? Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to see you back in the comments with me on future videos. And while you're here, here's 2 other videos I think you'll like.